Give me like an ambitious, like, has 2 years in a row we had these like great problems. No one gets to actually try to
Woo!
At some point we'll be live. Okay. All right. Welcome to SonarFeed, episode 261. Actual decision day is tomorrow, because, you know, people make actual decisions, as I guess, except for what the RSL team had to decide what snacks to have while watching decision day.
Yes.
That was about the amount of decision making that happened on Sunday. So we're here at the Berliner Pub, live in downtown Renton. Thanks, Mickey. Good job, Bruce. Anyway, we are here with the wonderful Matt Pence, who writes basically everywhere except the Seattle Times, I think, at this point. Is that...
I still even do like magazine stuff for them every once
randomly,
in a while, so it's kind of all...
so, of I guess formerly you are The Athletic, and then I guess you pick up a little, ESPN from time to time, among the other things.
Yeah, etc.
So we're just going to stare at your food that maybe
really
we'll let
good.
you eat at some point.
I'll get to
We
it
haven't decided
eventually.
yet on that one.
But welcome to the show. I know you've been on a few times before. I know we had talked about you being on either last week or this week. This week seemed like, well, I guess it's still the better choice. It's good. We can debrief a little on Sunday.
A lot
and
went
then
on.
Get into what's coming up on Thursday. Wow, I so wish we had Sunday again, but no such luck. So we can dig into a number of different things. Mickey can give us some updates on all other things that he's working on, including some travels and books and the Columbus Crew, or whatever we're calling them, the victorious Columbus Crew,
The future MLS Cup champion.
Right. It's really funny. On our van ride home last night, a number of people in the van had decided if Sounders get bounced, they want RSL Columbus as straight up payback for everything the league has ever done ever in the history of
and
MLS.
it's actually not that
It is
impossible.
absolutely not.
Both those teams could very well go
I
through.
mean, the dude taking the yellow last night is gonna hurt RSL.
Yeah.
And you know,
Was that
somebody,
really?
that was not great. But all in all, like, Team Chaos is definitely in control.
Yeah.
At this point, which is pretty cool. So I know there's a lot of things to talk about. You had done a fun piece on ECS things that we've been talking about for, it feels like months. It was actually months, I think,
It was
which was a lot of fun. Generated some cool buzz. A couple of people bought it up over the weekend, which was neat. But we can talk about that a little bit. Other than that, there's some injury stuff we want to probably get into from Sounders land, and we can make wild generalizations and speculations about who will or will not be on the pitch later this week. I'm going to probably spend way too much time deciding if I want to wear these headphones or not.
Pretty sharp.
I mean, I feel kind of cool. This is the first time I got to do my David Guetta, turn the ear thing.
One on, one off.
So I feel way cooler than I actually am. So there's that, which is cool. We can talk about voting. That's the thing. Everybody should do it if you haven't already. And if you haven't already, what are you waiting for, Washingtonians? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, do people just really want to roll up on election day and, like,
honor the holiday?
Yeah. You know what it is? They want to get, like, their free Lime bike that they get to ride to drop off their ballot, because that's a thing.
Is that a thing?
And I guess Lyft is offering either free rides or discounts depending on where you are. There's all sorts of neat stuff. And there's actually like I think it had been like in the 30s for the last presidential election in 2016 that companies were actually giving people like PTO essentially, or the ability to flex their schedules, whatever it was. And this year I've heard it's in the 40s. It's like low to mid 40s. That's a lot. Like, if even if you only surveyed 50 companies nationally, just randomly called them, that's still a really high number. Anyway, so pretty cool.
Be a good citizen.
Yeah, do your civic duty. I did have one Facebook friend today discuss why they were not voting. and I just kept scrolling because I couldn't bring myself to comment. And they have very specific political views, and they're not by any means pro-Trump or anything like that, but their very specific political views don't necessarily fit within the political views of the things that are available to vote on in Washington this year. So,
all right.
Yeah. So anyway, and we've got Carrie in the chat, actually. She is the person that gave me this wonderful button and another one that I had already given away. She pointed out that it's 50% off Lyft to a ballot box or the office if you need to get a replacement ballot, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, that's pretty fantastic. So she will probably chime in and give us some cool stuff while we're here on the show tonight. But why don't we just dig into yesterday's match? So you guys were both there. I was there. Matt took the lovely train to and from.
I did.
So that's
Best way
awesome.
to travel.
Do you want to just recap us the train ride? No. You don't need to do that unless you want to. But
It was very uneventful.
it was, is what it is. So result aside, because we'll want to get into that and sort of what it means, whether we want to talk about away goals or people being offside or not. We can get into that. But any sort of notable takeaways that you really want to just kind of dive into it, we can dig back out from that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my biggest surprise was how sort of unaffected the Sounders seemed to be afterward. They just seemed very confident and unfazed, and like I expected it to kind of be a wow, what a gutsy performance by us, and we can really rally with this. But they all just kind of seemed like it was like, oh, like we took their best shot and survived, and now we're going to win on Thursday, which we'll see if that holds up. But that sort of attitude was a little bit surprising to me.
Well, I mean, the rest of us are like, fuck Portland. So it's cool if the Sounders want to be that way, too. I'm okay with it. Mickey, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I think obviously it would have changed if they had given up that third goal. And I think, as Matt said, after the game, they were definitely pretty matter of fact about the whole thing. Weren't happy with the goals they conceded, but thought they played well, especially in the second half. That was a key theme from everyone we talked to in the locker room after the game was over. Schmetzer also talked about how he was pleased with how they played in the second half. So he obviously made some tactical adjustments, and they were pretty effective. We could talk about the Waylon Francis sub. I think that was just, Schmetzer after the game said Ship wasn't fit to go for the shift that Waylon put in, which was, 60 minutes or so?
Yeah.
About 60 minutes.
But it would have been 70 plus if he had gone the whole way.
Yeah. I guess that's another thing. But he said Chip wasn't fit to do that. So rather than risk him, being able to only go like 20 or 30 minutes, or just being a liability after 30 minutes, or getting injured, they just went with the guy who was obviously fit to go for a much longer period. And obviously they didn't want to put Hinwalla in a situation where he's going up in a playoff game against the Timbers in a hostile atmosphere. Even though he's not necessarily in a position where he would necessarily lose them a game, as if he was a keeper or on the back line, that's still a tough position for a rookie to be in. So it's understandable, and they were able to keep it to a 1-goal deficit. We're able to get the away goal. So I think all in all, they are relatively pleased. I don't even know how I'd say pleased, but they're not unhappy with the result. So
yeah, and I mean, you can certainly make the case for the Francis thing. He explained it well. I sort of get the rationale. It's still a little bit uninspiring, I would think, to not sort of give the keys to Hinwalla, but I get why he did it, and it didn't really do any harm in the end.
Yeah, Francis didn't do anything that would have cost them the game. He probably cost them a potential goal or two based on his inability to get across, and he had a couple places where he could have taken a shot on goal. He's not a winger, obviously, so it's hard to fault him for not being able to do those kinds of things. But that was a little unfortunate. But again, it seemed like they went to a very defensive formation. I think it was basically a 4-5-1 based on what they were talking about after the game. So I think it's hard to be displeased. I think the main thing is obviously the injuries, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and for a second there, it felt like it was going to get just wild. which I was very excited about.
Well, the
I
first
wanted
goal,
the like 5-4.
the second goal, and you're like, I did say to the person next to me, I was like, it's going to be that game, isn't it? And they were like, yes, it is. And not that you'd ever expect anything less.
No.
But
I wanted anarchy. And then the injuries happened, and both teams just like retreated to
they're
their
like,
shell, and I was very sad.
Let's not do that anymore. Yeah. And it's not to say it's better or worse when it's one player versus another. You don't want anyone getting injured. But the first time Roldan was down on the ground, everyone was like, yeah, he's done. And then wasn't for a few moments. And then he was done. And then to lose him and then another stalwart on the defensive side in Marshall, not that they could never recover from that ever, but what do? It's not like you can like for like those two guys, And Torres actually had a couple really great plays. Clearly wants that goal still, but did a pretty bang up job. And I haven't rewatched the whole game yet. I watched the condensed, but I didn't catch up on the whole thing. But did what you would want somebody coming in that position to do. There was one that I was like, ooh, you're going to take a card if you miss that ball. But that's no different from how that guy plays all the time.
Yeah.
So
he was good. He had one egregiously bad pass, which almost cost him. But aside from that, he was very good. And it's the reason why you pay someone, pay 3 center backs that kind of money.
For sure.
You keep one of them in reserve for just a situation like this, and he's probably going to have to go on Thursday. And fortunately, you've got to get him out of the game time in, and he should be ready to go. And they all have some time to train.
And there was, that's where you realize the luxury of having players like Alonso or Svensson. That Ozzy was kind of that very deep defensive player, kind of allowing the center backs to swing out to the sides of the field. Still had the outside backs able to move up, and he was able to bring the ball up and control the tempo a little bit. So having a player or two players, frankly, that have the ability to do that is luxury. Maybe isn't the right word, but when you need it to be able to do that was really, really helpful. And I gotta say, Kim, what an acquisition he has turned out to be.
Really
Whether
good.
He wins any award or ever scores a goal or gets to be up at a penalty shootout, doesn't matter. Great signing. Really solid. Frankly, just fun to watch, too, in offensive or defensive situations. So.
Yeah, and that's why I think Thursday will be a really interesting sort of chess match because of what you're saying with Alonso's ability to play deep and cover. As long as they can do that, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But the idea of Torres having to defend an open field against that counter, if they have to stretch, could get a little bit hairy.
Let's not do that.
I'm
going to vote no. Yeah. Vote no on that.
Yeah, they're going to have to come out, obviously, because they need the goal to win the game. And that's going to play into Portland somewhat.
Yeah.
They're just going to want to sit back and counter. But if this, the Sounders, they're losing 2 guys, most likely, but they have replacements for them. Roldan obviously is a great versatile player, but Chip can do what he can do, at least going forward from the wing. And so he's someone that he can do a job in that way, and was doing a job before he got injured. So, and then obviously you have Marshall as well. Torres isn't by his quality, but again, he can do a job and be successful. So they've got 2 replacements that they can bring in, and with the other talent elsewhere, they should be able to score a couple of goals.
And kind of going right in on that, we got a couple of questions or comments. First, Hunch Punch wants to know if Shalry is available for Thursday.
It's a deep cut.
It is a deep cut. There were some good jokes about it. I saw Aaron Campo had made a comment today that I think he said he's finally at the point where he's more upset about that coming up still than he was about it originally happening in the first place. Which that's he's given up on it a little bit. He's moving on, growing as a person. I'm really proud of him. So shout out to Aaron. And then Kenneth says Ship is the obvious call, and just wanted to know what you guys thought.
Yeah, because as you says there too, even in limited minutes because it's just like you
He
have
looked really good. He looked really good in his cameo.
And even if you don't think he can go all 90, I mean, even if he can only go 70 minutes, then you can either put in Handwalla if you need a goal and just go for it, or you can just use Francis again if you're trying to protect one another defender. So I think you got to go with Ship from the beginning and then let it play out from there.
Yeah, same thing. The only thing I would worry about is if he's really not fit to go a significant amount of minutes. You would think he wouldn't be in 18 unless he could at least give you a half. So hopefully that is not an issue. So he'll have another few days of training. That's a short week.
Yeah.
So that's going to obviously hurt. But I think Chip's clearly the answer as long as he can give you at least 45. Otherwise, they're going to have to be creative.
For sure. And this is just entire speculation. But I thought that Schmetzer saying in his postgame that they had considered going with Bruin. And shifting into a 4-4-2. I mean, maybe that's an option from the start.
They may do that.
I think that's probably the other scenario if you think you can come out and get a goal. But then I don't know that you have a plan B. If that doesn't work and then they get bogged down, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
But they have looked good in that formation at the end of games. So
but I do think having Bruin as just a punishing player to be able to bring in late is
I think
great.
it's more preferable.
But we're also gone from the days where he was on the roster at the same time as Dempsey, and you'd have a one or the other, to bring in. And if they go into this game down a player, it's either formation change or you're flipping things a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they'd end up, honestly. I'll be really curious to see, and I guess we're going to play this day to day as we find out where the injuries go.
Yeah. I mean, they only have 2 days of training, so whatever they're going to have to do, they're going to have to obviously figure it out quick as far as that's concerned. We'll get the update, obviously, on Marshall and Roldan tomorrow. I mean, the odds of them playing are just under 5% probably for
tomorrow.
Game. Yeah. For the game this.
Or for the game. Okay.
But
that's pretty low.
Yes. That's my speculation.
Yeah.
It's not based on anything I've heard.
But is that based on what the injuries were specifically?
Especially with Christian.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy that never embellishes. Like, he was very clearly hurt.
Yeah.
Chad, I mean, maybe it was just like a scare.
Yeah.
And it turns out that he wasn't actually that hurt and they were just really worried about it. So I think he's probably the more likely of the two, but I don't think either one of them gets it.
Yeah. Again, we'll see tomorrow. If again, with the short week, with only 2 days of training, usually they'd have a reach-in day today, or even 2 days off, so they wouldn't have even been out there tomorrow. But so tomorrow's probably going to be a light day, just getting them back in the swing of things. And then obviously on Wednesday they'll put in their full training package, and we'll see from there.
What's your over/under on the number of times that someone says "tough kids" in a press conference?
Tomorrow?
Yeah,
it's going to be high.
Yeah, it's going to be. Could be double digits. I'd say 9.5.
9.5.
Actually, no, I wouldn't go that high, but I'd say probably 5.5.
I would have said 5.
About 5.5.
Yeah,
5.5 over/under.
That's a good line.
All right, good. And then, we'll talk about the GM vote. We should touch on that a little bit later, because that's
next week, right?
Is it next
week?
The 13th, I think.
Well, is is it next week?
Yeah, it's next week.
What happened to 2018?
I know, it's like practically Thanksgiving already.
I am just generally exhausted, I think.
Just wait until tomorrow.
So, all right, so over under 5.5. We're going with that. All right, official prediction. So getting into some specifics, we can spend zero time on Nico Lodero's hair, which, by the way, if it truly was I'm trolling Gonzalo Pineda as a Halloween costume, that is acceptable use of blonde hair dye. But beyond that, it felt to me, and again, I haven't watched it on TV, it was from the section in the middle of supporting, he was either getting double-teamed a lot, not that he does it normally, but getting double-teamed quite a bit, had his usual amount of being thrown to the ground.
Yeah.
But it did feel like he had a lot of, maybe bad touches is too harsh of a word, but like misjudgments on where players were going to move to off the ball that there just felt like turnover opportunities, or maybe we've recovered, but it was things that felt a little uncharacteristic of him. I
think I talked to him last week. I have a thing coming out about him later this week. And a quote of his that stood out in retrospect was how important Christian's been for him, because he sort of does all the little things for him. They're really gotten good at just swapping positions.
Well, they just are running across the field.
They have a really good sense for each other, and then you bring in a non-winger in that spot, and I think it just kind of discombobulated everything. And and they could just focus all their attention on him at that point.
And you think they were very good in the first 15 minutes or so before he went down with his injury. Christian obviously had the assist, and they were moving all over the place. So it's not surprising.
Yeah. It just it felt like it got exacerbated tonight, and the moment probably is post rolled on. Even that first time that he went down, not that there was a ton of time between then and the second, but at that moment, in your head, you start to play a slightly different game with yourself. So as not to make it worse. And then it just, you have a player like that off the field, and then to take a Marshall off the field too, it just changed the personnel so dramatically. And, I think to what you had just said about them playing off one another, like I've joked about it on the show for the last month or two, like if you ever just sit there and just watch them, don't really watch run of play, just watch what they do. They are literally doing that. They're just like, I want to run to the other side of the field. And they see the other one, and they just reverse. And it's super, super impressive. And, it's really neat to see that, because there are plenty of great players who don't have the ability to, like, observe, or have that right chemistry. It's like playing FIFA, and you move the right person. It's like, just move Iniesta in here. Oh, everyone around me is happy. Weird how that happens. It's like, because that the other players, I think, recognize, like, your quality, but also that you are not a selfish player or whatever it is that works, and they just have a thing. And that's really, really cool. So that's great for us to be on the lookout. So game day-ish, is that coming out?
It'll be out on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, okay.
And it's weird to say that with, Chad Marshall maybe being the defender of the year, and I actually think that they will miss Christian more because of his role. If they both miss out.
Couple of comments about Chara and not getting a yellow. So, or any fouls even.
Yes. That was absolutely crazy stuff.
I think you said was not even mathematically possible
I don't
or
think
something.
It registers on any mathematical equation that I...
Not a thing that actually... Does this... So this proves or disproves that we're in a computer simulation? I'm unsure. Because the computer was like, they are definitely getting fouls. So maybe we are in reality after all. But the yellow card thing hangs over people's heads.
And there
have been a couple of them. And who's the other guy? What's his face? Their center back. No, well, he's back, right?
Oh, Ridgewell.
Ridgewell has a yellow, right? So he did get, by the way, pretty harshly heckled outside the stadium. But he did get in a car that someone else drove, so we were all really proud of him. So,
That's
another deep cut.
Pretty good. What we didn't do, though? We didn't make references to his mom. After, an entire episode we spent discussing people heckling him with his mom's name. That was great. And the best was that Ridgewell wanted, the game stopped for it.
So you get to a fight.
Isn't this a scrimmage? What are you guys doing? Anyway, so I don't know if I would say there was anything that I didn't expect to get. Injuries are in another bucket. The crowd was about what I would have expected.
It was really good. It was a really, really good atmosphere.
It was a lot of fun. It was loud. You never expect them to not pack it. Again, roll the dice in any of these Cascadia-type matches. You just don't know. And I think as confident as we all felt coming off of Sounders' last match, and frankly, even the training days after that, maybe that's why people left, or the team left, and we're kind of like, whatever, we got this. For the same reason. It's just because I think they're feeling good about it. It's hard to win away. It doesn't matter if you go 180 miles away or 2,000 miles away. It's hard.
Yeah.
You know, in any league, really ever. You know, you see stuff like the League Cups and whatnot, domestic trophies in other countries. Like, that stuff happens. You get the right number, the right combination of things. I think the quick response from Timbers made a big, big difference. If they had gone 20 more minutes without scoring, not to say it wouldn't have ended up 2-1, but I really think that kept them together.
Yes.
Because the Sounders were in control for the first 15 minutes or so. And they got the goals to reward. And then, obviously, unfortunately, gave up the equalizer. And then the injuries came down, and then it was kind of hold on for dear life until they got to halftime.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, after halftime, they looked pretty good. They were able to absorb the pressure and carve out some chances.
Felt a lot better because there was a couple moments in that first half where I was like,
it could have been 3 or 4
and then
to
we
1.
were talking pre-show, right? So we were like, oh, barn burner, it's coming, 5-4, 6-5, whatever, something nuts, team chaos. Nope. But you kind of felt it, and the fact that they were able to either tamp it down or just adjust the game enough that Timbers were not able to run roughshod was impressive.
For sure, and I think that part of why they're so confident too is they're always so high on we're always in every game, we never are rattled and whatever.
Right.
But clearly you do.
Yeah.
There are moments whenever you're kind of reeling a little bit.
You'll be like, do you guys remember May?
Yeah. But I think that they probably recognized that the Timbers had a chance to knock them out, and they didn't.
Right.
And not only did they not,
that third
I would argue
goal,
they didn't even really try to take their swing. In which case, the Sounders can kind of reasonably look and be like, "Well, they're afraid of us,
really,
and now
though,
we're going to go home."
They
and
didn't
win.
go do anything crazy.
No.
That third goal, had that counted, I don't know. That was an accident almost.
Yeah.
I don't know. Speaking of accidents, and what was it, the first goal? And again, having not watched the replay, presumably you both have at this point, or you were watching it very differently than I was. That was the right call, Fry coming out, not the right call?
I thought he had to come out because
it seemed like
it was behind.
Yeah, it didn't seem like there was another choice.
No, Fry.
So, and I haven't read anything or heard anything from anyone saying there was a misplay there. It just seemed like that's what he
made a
had
good run,
to do.
and it was a good through ball. It was marginally offside.
Yeah.
It's probably not something they're ever going to overturn
Right.
on VAR. And Fry had to come out, and he chipped him, and
It's what it is. I mean, that's what you do.
It's not soccer.
Yeah. And then I did catch it on my phone later. I got called out to take care of something in the hallway, and I am listening to the audio as I'm trying to have a conversation with someone when the second goal happened, and I was like, I'm glad that I walked away and did not see this, because this is not what I want to be doing
that goal was
now.
obviously much more annoying for Sounders fans because it deflected off 3 people, and I think Kim got to the ball first, won it, but it just deflected right back to Timbers player. Then Marshall won the ball, but it deflected to Guzman.
Yeah,
that who scored. And then
Blanco scored.
Yeah, Blanco. So and then he kind of got the best of Leardom and slotted it, and it was a nice goal from that perspective. But that's a goal you think is more likely to be preventable, just because it just was kind of unlucky bounces.
Yeah.
After several Sounders won the ball.
Yeah.
Initially.
And I think that the one scenario in that the Sounders get knocked out is that Blanco has a really, really good game. Because I don't think that they have enough firepower otherwise to really threaten them. But, I mean, Blanco is great. I've been skeptical of him in the past. But he was probably the best player on the field overall.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And if he does that again, you have to worry about him and Valeri and not giving up a goal. It could get a little bit more interesting.
Why I hadn't caught this? Francis, 2 offside calls.
How did that happen?
Oh, out of the 5 that Sounders had all
Which
day.
was weird because
Two were the guy that had no idea the position he was playing. That's shocking.
Cool.
He doesn't seem especially fast to me these days. He just seems to labor when he's at a full sprint.
Yeah.
And just being offsides. I mean, those were promising opportunities, and really not plays that he should have been offside on. But again, that's not his normal position, so it's still hard to fault him completely with respect to that. So.
How did you feel about Rui Diaz overall?
Good. That's good. He scored a great goal.
Great goal.
The
it was a really good goal.
Yeah, it was a very degree of difficulty. I mean, the one he missed prior to that, obviously, is one that you think he makes 9 times out of 10, and he just kind of scuffed it and just completely missed the ball. But then he comes back 2 minutes later, and it's a shot that's 2 or 3 times more difficult. So
yeah,
I think they were just the first half after he scored, and they were just under siege so much, and with the injuries, it was just almost impossible for him to really get involved in the game. And you saw him coming back deep to get the ball at points.
Yeah.
Again, in the second half, they were able to do a little bit more. I'm not sure if he had a shot on goal in the second half, but I have to take another look. And he didn't really get behind anybody or really combine until they started really taking control of the game in the last 20 minutes. So, but good. Score a goal. That's what he's paid to do. So it's tough to really fault anything he had to do, especially with the game state and the injuries.
And he's not. I mean, his game is not to be the forward on an island who's holding up play and connecting. And I mean, he was playing a role after they shifted into that 4-5-1. And you can't really have expected him to do much more than he did.
Yeah, I don't really have any complaints really whatsoever.
He just, I will say, he fit in pretty immediately, and genuinely seems happy. He gets good service, that's a guy that you look at right now and you're like, don't screw this up, Sounders, ever. Please.
Yeah, do you want to use that to seg into the GM vote here? It's a pretty natural transition.
It probably is. I mean, we dig into the game, and we'll talk. We can come back to some predictions, and we should talk about the other games. But yeah, why don't we talk briefly about GM vote? So the what is it next?
It's the 12th or the 13th.
12th, 13th, next Wednesday.
Yeah, it's middle of next week.
Maybe it's Tuesday. I cannot recall. Business meeting, right? So coming soon.
Yes.
I do not at all expect
November 13th.
Next Tuesday.
Okay. So I do not at all expect it to be vote no. Maybe by a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe not at Adrian levels of victory. But I think it'll be pretty in his favor. I am going to be curious to see if they got enough votes for it to have been binding.
Yeah. I think that's the question.
I agree. They obviously have held it close to the vest and are not announcing it. I mean, I can't recall at the previous vote if they announced that they met the minimum ahead of time when Adrian was up last.
Don't recall.
That would be an interesting...
Because you only have to meet the minimum if it's a no, right?
Yeah, it's super majority.
Yeah.
If it's a no.
If it's a no. If it's a yeah, then...
And then even then, Garth's going to be like, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be 22 other teams willing to
sign him. Uproar in the streets.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think we're going to see a negative. I am curious to see, though, how this business meeting goes. The format's kind of tweaked year over year. This has been the third tumultuous season in a row.
Attendance was down a little bit.
Attendance was down. I mean, attendance was down in a number of places, but attendance was down a little bit. There are a lot of things to talk about. I will say, as someone who has done the PowerPoint presentation that they will show, Thursday will have a significant impact on the tone. Not to say that topics covered would change at all, but I think some of the vibe and tone
the
and whatnot, yeah, for sure, the mood. Well, by then they would have done exit interviews.
Yeah, I mean the last
So-
one coming off a loss was when they no one knew if Ziggy was coming
Yeah.
back, and they
Was that 2013?
2015.
15,
After they lost to Dallas 3 days earlier,
Yeah.
and I don't even think Ziggy knew that they were going to announce he was coming back. That night was a mess. That was the Joe Roth.
It was
night,
awkward.
too. Yeah.
Yes. I have comments about that night, but I'm not going to make any of them. But I have a really nice take-home cup from that place that I had some Merlot out of.
Oh,
back
the
at
Paramount. Yeah.
I do
I
miss
do.
the
I do
Paramount.
miss those shows. I mean, I understand why, or those events. I understand why they downsized them, but
Yeah.
they were fun in the
Yeah.
old theater.
I'm excited to see how many of us are standing outside the door of the 90 on Tuesday, because that sold out in 21 seconds from what I saw. Everyone that I know that tried to get in did not. So it was probably days. But a lot of people I know did not get
Well, it can
into
always-
it.
But
It's
the
like
capacity is 100.
it's like
Yeah.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Fuel has higher
Yeah,
capacity,
that's
and
right,
Fuel's is 199. So
They
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
find a middle ground between
I'm
the
gonna go with
Paramount and the
I'm gonna go with
90.
less.
Yeah.
But needless to say that I could just sit outside with a soda,
Or pitchfork.
pitchfork. Let's not need to have pitchforks. let's just not need to do that. But all in all, I felt like it went the way it should have, as far as the conversation around the GM vote and whether you were positive or negative. Speaking of for ECS, we were a block of tickets. We voted them all one way. We did vote to retain, though people in our leadership group that had elected to go in that direction didn't vote to retain from a personal standpoint. And I think I talked to you about this. We had some time with Garth a month or so earlier. We had some really great FaceTime with him before a match. He kind of said his piece. We said our piece, and it's as amicable or contentious as you want it to be, in any 5-minute period. But I think what was really cool to me to see was he came into this very open mind, did not expect at all that there was a possibility that people would vote no. And not that he's ignorant at all.
Yeah.
It's just, he's like, my book of business is real good, people. Read it. And I think he genuinely appreciated hearing the feedback. Not just critical stuff, just in general. And that was refreshing for me to see. And the fact that, some of the feedback we had given him, he put into practice just about how he talks about stuff was really cool. We were like, if what you just said here is what you believe, go tell everybody that. And he's like, oh, okay. And we're like, what have you been doing this whole time? I think if you really step back for a second, look at it, we should all probably feel the same way we did when they got him in the first place, which was, holy shit, they let that guy go? And not to say I agree with every decision, and I was Garth out for a good chunk of 2018 for a number of legit reasons, at least legit to me. And
I'm curious about that. Because I
don't feel like this is sustainable as a business, that months and months and months and months of up and down. And let's just be clear. The team at the beginning of the run was the same roster for the most part, except for one player that played the bulk of the minutes. That first win, when they turned it on, was I think it was 8 of 11 had played the bulk of the minutes for the team for the season up to that
Was that
point.
the Colorado game?
So something changed, and Dave, who's really good at shit stirring, was like, so you're saying that Brian Schmetzer told the team to cool it? And I was like, no, that is not what I'm saying. But I don't feel like that's sustainable. If in May or June we're at all where we were this year, it's going to be bad. and I do feel like this has affected ticket sales. I think the casual fan is always going to kind of show up, but the person who is like, I'm going to buy a ticket every week and just pop in whenever I can, or I can go 50% of the season, or I'll split a ticket with my friend, I think that person might have been out had the team not made a run right now. And I think the risk to their business is a lot higher than I think they believed it truly was. And so from a business standpoint, not in love with it. It's really frustrating. It's also, as somebody who's in leadership for ECS, it's really hard to motivate people all the time. Because like I'm in, the bulk of the group is going to be there every week, win or lose. You know, you lose 3-0, we're still singing the players off the pitch. Like, it's not that it's the job, but that's what you're there for. Like, you're there to motivate at all points. Not everyone thinks that way. So when you show up in the middle of a, shitty run of the team, and like we've all had those matches where it's 2:00 kick, and at 1:42, there's 20,000 empty seats in the stadium, and then maybe by halftime it looks decent, and it's a beautiful day. That's when you're like, yeah, I live in Seattle. There's a shitload of things to do. Make me come to this game. And there's probably enough people with enough disposable income that they can flip their ticket to a friend or blow it off completely just because. And I think, unfortunately, that's a consideration. And it's honestly magnified because we are drawing double the average team in the entire league. And the average city is not Seattle. And that's a cocky confidence statement, bluntly.
Yeah.
But think about what we can all do within 45 minutes of home. And that's whether you live in Federal Way or you live in Everett. Like within 45 minutes, you can do a lot of really cool things. Do one more.
And I guess like my counter is, I think my counter to that is that, I mean, there's always going to be like a checklist of box that you want them to do everything, and I get that. But like, if you were going to have one that was empty, winning MLS games in March and April, so unless like theoretically you think you could bring in someone that could check like literally every single box.
To me, honestly, it was the statements to the press.
Yeah.
And I would tell Alex and Matt and those guys, I talk to them, like I love them, they're great. In my opinion, and this is what we talked to him about in that meeting, I was like, the way you answered this question as a PR person, we would have had a talk afterwards and you would not have liked what I would have had to say to you. And that's not to say he's not a great professional and he's an attorney and he's polished and he's super smart and he knows soccer in and out, you know, and as a player, But I was like, why would you say this? And in my opinion, his answer was not great. To defend the answer. And I was like, all right, so tell me why you said this, how you got to that point. It was like, well, would you rather we just got into this? And we were talking about, Open Cup. We talked about Open Cup and Sacramento. And he's like, well, ultimately what really happened was we had to make some sacrifices and some decisions. The team was exhausted. This is what we had available from a roster perspective. And I was like, well, that's not what got said to the media. And not that Schmetzer needs to throw his players under the bus, but
you will never do that.
But he was able to diagnose and describe the situation to all of us. And he's like, well, would you expect Schmetzer to this? And I was like, no. Schmetzer is there to say, hey, I went out with what we had available. The guys put in a good fight. Unfortunately, we didn't take the win. And then if you want to step in and make a comment as Garth, you can say, hey, unfortunately, roster didn't allow us to have the lineup we wanted to tonight. We recognized that we had to make a tough decision. We made the tough decision. That's far better than, every game isn't a must-win. And, just why would you ever say any of those things? So to me, every time he's made a comment in a high-pressure situation, he's actually dug himself in a hole when he didn't need to, because he has all the right answers. And that was that's why the discussion we had with them was so great, was he's like, so what you're saying is you would rather have this
truth.
this roll of the dice multiple times than for us to just say we're going after MLS Cups. And I said, the way you describe this is, you don't think that the easiest way to CCL, which you're prioritizing MLS Cup, CCL, and then Shield, and then Open Cup, and whatever as third, or 2A, 2B, 2C. I said you're literally taking the quote easiest road off the map, or you're not prioritizing that. What we're telling you is, we are going to show up as much as we can every single match, irrelevant of the situation, for a trophy. Pick a piece of hardware we want. And I think not that he didn't think that was the case, but once he heard it to his face, I think he was like, oh. And it was basically like, so I could keep doing what I'm doing, but if I don't position it like all we care about is MLS Cup, because there are times where that's what it feels like, they're saying, then that's not an issue. And we're all like, yeah, because we all are out here believing that you're okay with how things are going. And he's not okay. And that's beautiful to hear. But literally until that point, we had no idea. And that's my soliloquy. But I didn't mean to rant on it. It was an interesting thing that had I had the conversation publicly or privately before then, I would have felt differently for 4 months. And I don't feel like he gets goaded into giving a bad quote or whatever. But in my opinion, love him or hate him, saying, not that he did, but other people have said it, just take what Jeff Baker does with quotes with a grain of salt is an unacceptable response. My response to that is, if you didn't like the last 5 stories he wrote, don't give him access. As a PR person, that's literally what you do in that situation. And instead, it's like, exclusive Jeff Baker story. And I'm like, don't complain when you don't like what he said. If you don't think you need him, or you don't like where he cuts your quotes, don't give him quotes. And they've dug their own hole in that particular case, and I genuinely feel like the last 2-3 months have been very, very different. From
and the messaging has definitely shifted, so that's interesting insight, for sure.
What I would say about next year and whether they're at risk of further alienating one fan base or the other. I mean, obviously, Garth has had his talking points on the reasons for the slow starts for the last 3 years. To the degree to which you think those are true or not. I think we've discussed those kind of ad nauseum at this point. But the good news for me next year is that they have their main core with Ladero, Rodriguez. Rodriguez is probably back. Assuming Fry, they're able to come to some type of deal with him, because I think he may be out of contract.
Hey man, Christian, I would also think would be back.
Yeah, Christian definitely has 1 more year on this deal. I'm not sure about Fry. But you've got the core there back. We'll see what happens with Torres. That's obviously up in the air, I think, is fair to say at this point. But Marshall, again, I think he was going to be back before the injury hit. And then Ken Keehee will obviously be back as well. So you've got your basic core there. You've got the kids, Wanda, Wingo, who will be back most likely. So it seems unlikely to me, and then Morris obviously as well, coming back from his injury. So you've got your core team there back. Should not be a reason for a slow start per se.
Maybe
next year, as long as they've got as long as they do the proper roster building, and then they're going to drop a couple of pieces as well. They should be able to replace with some quality.
For sure, and I mean there are gradients of slow starts, right? I think they'll avoid another tire fire for the third.
I mean, let's hope so.
Probably,
And again, Jordan Morris is definitely a factor. They've had players on the table. It's not like there actually aren't causes, and they were just sitting on their hands chilling. The problem is at some point it coincides with Garth Lagerwey being here. At some point, that's basic math, for fans. And I think at this point, they know where everybody stands. It's going to impact their business if it doesn't, or if it happens again. I actually feel pretty good about how things have gone going into the playoffs. I know we saw less tickets available as ECS to purchase, which is a pretty good leading indicator, as statistics and metrics and stuff go. Because there have been years, there was a year where right after I think we had worked with them to boot out a lot of the brokers and stuff who had like 8, 10 tickets, there were 400 or 500 tickets available one season, and this year it's like 200.
Yeah.
So like a very, very different number. So that's, people who might not have renewed or taken, or their credit cards didn't go through or whatever it is. Very, very different numbers, which is good. Like that to me shows confidence in the club.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess the other correlation could also be they've been going to MLS Cup every year. And I think that's like not
weird.
That's not an insignificant thing, in my opinion, whenever half the league is done at the end of October. Yeah. And you have to go all the way through and have a non-existent preseason, and then find a way to rest guys.
And they go to CCL.
Point. Yeah, the CCL ones. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah,
it is tough. But I don't think it'll be as bad next year, regardless.
Unless knock on wood, unless there's some other injury crisis.
Again,
knock on wood.
So let's step out of maybe the voting, because I think we can talk more about it. But it is what it is. It's baked at this point. Let's just say Sounders go to MLS Cup and are victorious. Is it hard to keep Garth Lagerwey? Not on Garth's volition, but do people legit come calling?
I guess the question would be where.
Yeah.
Is what I'm not sure. I mean, if U.S. Soccer had decided that they actually wanted an actual GM with any actual power, he might have been gone in April.
Yeah.
But I just don't see domestically another job that's much more appealing.
Right, that's more appealing, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I could see people come calling.
Yeah.
But would you go?
Yeah, and I guess maybe he would. I don't know that he even wants to go overseas. He seems pretty dedicated to the U.S. soccer grassroots.
I mean, Inter Miami, that's coming.
Kids as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if he wants to uproot them to go overseas. And then, Miami would probably be an attractive job.
And again, that's not I think Garth position. Would on his own go chase things down.
Yeah,
just
but
is the phone going to ring?
They would probably come calling.
Yeah.
Even if they just get to MLS Cup, let alone if they win. I mean,
yeah. Well, and I actually think a thing that might actually help keep him here is the new rumored academy thing that you can bring people in from everywhere.
Yeah, he's going to be able to do some big time recruiting.
Yeah, and as such a guy who loves the development side, Seattle's talent base isn't Miami or Southern California, but now maybe that mitigates it too. So I don't see a job out there that's that much more appealing.
Not domestically, definitely not.
Yeah.
So I would say,
Crystal Palace.
Well, he signed him, 2015 was his first year?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to figure he's coming up on a contract extension, so that could probably be an interesting question to ask about, because you got to figure that they'll be renewing him at some point, assuming the vote goes
Do you think
through.
that they'll accidentally keep him long enough that he gets to stay for another 1 to 2 years, like a midfielder who plays for Orlando City? That's the dumbest shit ever.
That's amazing.
And the fact that it
so
happened last year with Breck Shea in Vancouver, because he played a playoff game or whatever it was, is amazing. How do you do that?
You're not a very good front office.
Someone got in trouble for that.
Answer,
yeah, it's incompetence. That's how it happens.
Shea's contract is massive. It's not like you're it's not like you're forgetting about the third spring left.
He can buy so many pairs of Zubas with that contract. It's not even funny. And that's
I think it's like 700,000. That's incredible to
and then convert to Canadian money, and it's even amazing.
Yeah.
Even more amazing. So we got a question from Megan, who's here, and I just lost it. And it was about awards and bribery. I mean, let's just be real. If you were to send out gifts to encourage voters to vote Sounders for end-of-season awards, what would you send? So we've got a handful of Sounders up for end-of-season awards. So Fry, we've got Dad. Yay, Dad. And Ozzy, right? So for each of those, were we to bribe people voting for those awards, what would we send?
I mean, it's like you're sending it to like middle-aged sports writers, so probably like some kind of like fancy IPA from Seattle.
From Seattle,
Or
yeah.
Yeah,
Or
and anything,
scotch and whiskey.
Yeah, anything like artisan and local and alcoholic, and you're
So-
probably going to be all right.
At first, I was gonna make a joke that it looked like Megan was taking notes. I think she's actually just paying her bill. Damn it! It was funnier when you were taking notes. Cool. Oh, John has pointed out to us that, wow,
Yeah, that's,
700,000 base salary for Breck Shea.
that is amazingly bad.
But
He
the
was
hair, man,
so
the hair is just
bad.
so good.
And we're like
Like-
giving out awards, like the worst individual performance that I saw all year against the Sounders
Sounders was
him at BC Place.
yeah. I was sitting. I think
He
I
got
was sitting next to you.
smoked.
Yeah.
Twice in 10 seconds, and another whole time.
Yeah.
So
Well-
I was down on the field to go collect the Cascadia Cup, and we're at the end line, and we're talking to people, and Breck Shea's name comes up, and someone, not like a comms person or anything, but like someone that worked in the stadium, just looks at us and goes, and just was disappointed in general. And we were like, wow, even the BC Place staff is not really into this.
Well, I assume he's up at the end of the year. I'm assuming they haven't renewed his option again.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, so
since they
Well,
didn't
there
make
we
the
go.
playoffs,
They have anyone back after they all went to war on
Right.
each other.
Right.
it's going to be like Kendall Waston and no one else.
Well, I don't think he wants to be there right now either. So he.
Or
He
if
said
they
he
clear
wants to
out
be
the
out.
rest of them, he's okay with it.
Yeah, that's
I don't
right.
know. Yeah, who even knows? I mean, they cleared out the leadership of a supporter group. Like, Vancouver's kind of a shit show.
It's
So-
a bummer
It's
too.
surprising. I mean, they've got all the ingredients of a great franchise, a great organization. And they
Yeah.
just, for some reason, have not been able to pull it together consistently.
We're going to reheat your food, I think.
It's fine. It's all fine. Yeah, I'm of the belief that like the general health of all the Cascadia teams, as much as they all want to hate on each other, and I'm sure that like you would like to see the Timbers bottom out. I think all of them being good is more fun than having.
Oh,
one
it
of
is
them
more
be a
fun.
mess.
When, like, the rivalry versus Vancouver exists because it's been around a while, and MLS is like, y'all are going to play each other as often as we can
Yeah.
put it into the schedule.
Which is going to start to change.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
let's
Well,
just
next
keep
year-
adding some teams.
Next year it'll just be two games each because Cincy will come in. And
But
that'll
they're
even
moving
it
Red
out.
Bulls back to the West, right?
And the Red Bulls.
Isn't that coming back? best MLS Cup, best MLS playoffs ever. It's like the point when the Flyers were in the West in the NHL, and you're like, I mean,
Tampa was in the
they're
NFC
kind of
West.
inland,
Yeah.
like ish. So, although this Texas thing does make it weird,
Yeah.
because you're like, is Austin gonna be in the West? I don't know. What do you do?
Maybe in 2021 or so. But for next year, they just bring Cincy in, and I think because the West has more teams right now, right?
Yes.
So yeah, Cincy just goes to the East, and everything stays the same.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. And that means that there's only two Cascadia Cup games per team.
I mean,
Yeah.
you think.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true. That's
in
true.
theory,
Have you seen MLS?
I would be worried to see how they're going to work a schedule to force
Like,
an extra
I
game.
bet you everyone, they scheduled out the season, and then at some point someone was like, oh shit, RSL doesn't have anyone to play that last week.
And then they ended up being the most important team of the entire
Weird.
weekend.
So let's spend a few
Segue.
minutes talking about some other playoff things that have occurred. I don't know if we necessarily need to talk about play-in matches, though we're welcome to.
The only thing interesting was the attendance in Dallas.
And by attendance, you mean what exactly?
They were attending Halloween parties. Apparently.
I don't know what they were doing, but they were not in line for the Soccer Hall of Fame. That is something that I can confirm.
Glad they put it there in the hotbed.
That made
No,
a
it's-
ton of
That
sense.
thing it's ridiculous. And I did a story on the lease there, which was going to be up I think in like 2022 at Frisco. Or something.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. That was 2037. And it's just one of those things that MLS just...
That's when the Ballard light rail opens, right?
Yeah.
Is that when that
pretty
is?
close.
Yeah, something
Pretty
like
close.
Thanks, Tim Iman. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's just, they were, the Toyota lease was going to be up in the next 5 or 7 years. And then they just agreed to stay there for another 20 from now. Just because Frisco agreed to pay and finance and remodel for the Hall of Fame. And I think they just think that they'll be able to grow into this Frisco and the surrounding area. And that will help mitigate some of the previous attendance issues they've had, and it obviously has not helped as of yet.
I mean,
But
really,
the whole thing's bizarre to me.
But
why they
really,
decided
that
to do
is, we have very short-term thinking, not necessarily in a super negative way, but in the United States, we're very much like fish where the fish are. I mean, that's what I do from a sales perspective at work. But not for nothing, since 2010, there's a lot more people that live in that like 30-mile zone around that park than did then.
Yeah.
So if you had unlimited money and you're like, we're going to build a city, you know, this is very gold rush kind of thinking. You have a highway, you know, you have not downtown, but you have some shopping, like you have some other retail, you have some restaurants, you have sports teams, you have schools. Like, that's how you build a city. So in theory, it's not about Dallas. You know, it's about the folks that are in that 10, 15 mile radius.
Or 30 in the case of Frisco.
Or 30 in that case. But if you have a long-term vision, that is the way to do it. However, is that Hall of Fame the same as like when we're talking about the Cooperstowns of the world, or where like Little League World Series is, you know, or Canton? Like, I've been to Canton. It's actually a cool town. But 75 years ago, it was a very much more bustling place. Yeah. And it's like, if you
they
need
might put
tires,
that on the town sign if
you
anyone
need
from
them.
Canton ever hears
Like,
of that.
if you need tires, like, not for nothing, if during the collapse, you know, a decade ago, had the auto industry completely failed, that whole region of the country would be in far, far worse shape from an employment standpoint than it is now. So at some point it is about like recognizing the shifts in the economy and like what people are doing, and the whole like millennials want to experience versus whatever, and like that's real. Like, that's not bullshit. We can all make fun of it all we want, but that's a real thing.
For sure. I mean, it's also giving MLS HQ way more
I
credit for long-term vision.
And again, I'm not saying that they had it, but like that is a thing that does work. And if you can say we're going to commit to something for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, genuinely, and you have hunt money, you know, okay, like, go for it.
Yeah.
They're placing a bet. They're placing a bet.
That said, I don't see how MLS can at all want to compare itself in some of these cities to, hell, championship teams in England when they're getting 8,000 people and saying it's 15, 20.
Yeah.
I just don't see how it's sustainable between now and 2037. You know, or whatever it is. Like,
it is 2037.
The orange seat, the orange, everyone's dressed as an orange seat joke is only so funny. You know, oh, they're on the sun. Everybody's actually on the other side because the sun isn't there. And I'm like, maybe think about that when you build the stadium. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, and like at some point, like that is a false or kind of a bullshit narrative, really. But if you have long-term vision, in theory, you know, this is what you do.
You will not convince me that is the
case. I'm not convinced about it. And, you know, you've got 3 teams now, in theory, that are going to be there. So, I don't know. What's going to be crazy is, what's going to happen, though? Yeah. What's going to happen, though, if Austin draws immediately? it's a different group of people. Like, the people that are moving to Austin are the people that can't afford to live in San Francisco, that are working for the same companies that are in San Francisco, or the San Francisco.
Doesn't sound like here at all.
Not at all. It's totally like here, except with different weather and bats. Anyway,
Barbecue. Also.
like, people with disposable income who are like, I can spend $434 on 17 matches a season to hang out outside. Like, have you done 6th in Austin on the weekend? Because it's the coolest shit ever. Like, you don't need the college games happening at UT. Like, the state capital's walking distance. There's a bar and food and music scene. You have multiple festivals. Lodging already exists. It's a car town. The transit's kind of figured itself out. I don't know, things that Columbus et al. Don't have. And you can keep piling that stuff on. And that's where, like, what's going to happen genuinely if Austin laps those towns?
It's more likely than not that they would. Again, you're waiting on the bet they're making on Frisco is, as you said, probably a 15 to 20 year bet that the city gets built out to support the team, because there's no transit. There's not going to be any transit in getting up from Dallas to Frisco or in that general area.
There's a toll road,
you
could pay.
It's actively prohibitive to get out there, it feels like. So, building out Frisco is not a short-term prospect. So Austin, whatever you want to think about the machinations to get them down there, they do have some things going for them. I'm not convinced that the location's all that great, but it's at least within city limits, so to speak. So at least I'll have that going for them. The transit's not particularly great, but again, if it's a car town, then if people want to drive and want to do that, then they will. Yeah. So if that's not an issue, then they've got the other ingredients to make it successful.
I mean, I have some friends that live just outside of town, out towards one of the interchanges. That's not necessarily so far away from where one of the spots is. I guess we should say it could be the spot, but you never know at this point where they end up having a stadium. Which one? It's not McCall. I don't know all the names.
Yeah, it's McCall. That's where they're trying. That's where they are building and assuming at least.
McCall, right? So out that way, that they are people who would take transit. They have lived in other cities where they did, but they have cars. One of them commutes to work. Another one takes some transit, and because they can. But they're the kind of people that are like, yeah, we would go do this, like late 20s kind of people. That's the scene. I don't think they're going to offend anyone in this market. It's Texas. Like, I have friends that live in West Texas that in the 90s, they opened a new Wendy's and they drove 2 hours to go to it. And I'm being totally serious. Like, I had a phone call about it and I was like, I don't understand what you just said to me right now. And then I went and got in line at a In-N-Out Burger once because it had just opened. But whatever.
Shake Shack.
Yeah. Oh, God. Let's not even go there. So as much as I think we all want to predict what will happen, Austin is a different animal than these other markets are, either the other Dallas markets or some of the other expansion markets that have been floated. It's just a different place.
Yeah.
And part of the reason, or a significant reason, in my opinion, is disposable income and the attitudes, or sort of the, whatever you want to say, the psychographics of the people who live in Austin and or are being attracted to Austin right now.
Yeah.
So
we'll see what happens. I don't really have any feelings that it will be unsuccessful. It's really just a matter of them being able to get the deal over the line, and being able to navigate all of the various lawsuits that will be coming and all that stuff. But if they are able to get it there, then it will probably do fairly well. So certainly better than Dallas is currently doing, and even Houston, for that matter, who really has no excuses for what's going on there.
So I know I derailed us a bit into this Austin discussion. Sorry, it was worth it. Also, we got to make fun of Frisco, so that's cool.
Yes.
But digging into some of that. Let's talk about, I'd say, the DC and the RSL matches.
That night was a really good.
Wow.
Very, very good.
How fun was
round
that?
night. Great goals, lots of drama.
Yeah. I think the Team Chaos people were definitely pulling for Columbus. And then I think people who just were curious about DC United and love the fact that Rooney and others, whether you love or hate Wayne Rooney, I don't know, dude smoked teams in this league. He would probably, in Seattle, Wayne Rooney would probably have sold 10,000 tickets in an MLS Cup final.
Yeah.
Just Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and Stars still do it.
And it kind of actually transitions into what we were talking about. It's like I was just thinking whenever we were talking about Dallas, I mean, like, it's one thing trying to have Austin be successful. What do you do with Dallas now if you're the league? Like, how do you recreate these brands? And I mean, DC's been really interesting. You get the downtown stadium and you saw that scene.
Yeah.
It's like a whole different club than it was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Even. Entirely different.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see them go through just because I thought that was kind of cool to see kind of the rebirth of a franchise there.
Yeah.
And to have them go through and build on that would have been cool.
How much of their run or their streak, whatever you want to call it, would you say is about being able to play at home so much?
A lot.
A lot.
A
Okay.
lot. Yeah.
I mean, it's clearly a significant advantage, especially in MLS. So, I wouldn't put a percentage on it or anything like that, but it's substantial. I mean, a lot of it, obviously, though, you have to give Rooney credit for. He just, he came in and was dynamic and basically unlocked
and had a tag team player.
Yeah. And so, I just think he was everything they could have wanted.
Yeah.
And they did a great job, especially there are a lot of skeptics out there who thought he was either past it, here for a payday, didn't really care, retirement league
just
stuff.
wants to play.
Yeah, and he
Clearly.
was the opposite of basically every stereotype that older European
And he's getting a
players
call.
get.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like that's actually going to happen. I've been listening to the TalkSport folks. At night, I just listen to the radio for Din, at home. And they are losing their shit today about the fact that they're calling Rooney in. Like, every other caller is like, I can't believe that he's going to get to take someone's spot. I'm like, it's a friendly.
Yeah, it's a friendly against the U.S.
Versus your former colonies. What?
Yeah, that seems. I don't really understand why people are upset about that.
What do you care? You know what? If it's
give him like 20
qualifier or
30
something,
minutes.
and he was going to start, maybe
Yeah.
at that point, if you're playing a significant opponent. But at this point, come on, have a little fun. Like, we've had more fun or less fun, with more important things, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So,
People
let
like
this
to
one
be
ride.
mad.
Yeah,
People like to get mad.
it is fun to get mad.
Yeah.
It's really fun when people get mad in Cockney accents on talk radio. You think that English talk radio would be different than American talk radio? Same.
Yeah.
The jokes are different, but it's the same.
Yeah, I believe that totally.
And then flipping over to LA.
They're having a press conference tomorrow, I think.
Oh, you're talking about the Zlatan
Yes. We're thinking about
press
the
conference?
Yes.
I was, but let's talk about that for a moment, because is he signing a 10-year deal?
Maybe he's going to be the owner of
Is
the Galaxy.
is
at
he
this
going
point.
to sponsor them so it's not like
Player
multi-level
coach,
marketing
yes.
anymore?
30 minutes to player
coach. Right.
It's going to be interesting. It sounded like he was gone, but that might have just been the English tabloids having some fun.
Oh,
And
and
then
his agent.
he's
Yeah, and
available
his agent,
for the
yeah.
press conference?
Yeah, I think he'll be sticking around. What will be obviously interesting is if they are giving him a pay bump, what he does deserve and would likely demand. Then you've got obviously 4 DPs at that point who are over the threshold. So either MLS is going to do some MLS things, or one of their 3 DPs who are currently on the team will be going elsewhere, one of which they've already tried to move in Giovanni Dos Santos. But he makes $6 million a year, and no one's going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And then you got Alisson Drini, who is attractive to a bunch of teams.
Yeah.
I'd love to have him on the Sounders for that matter. and then Jonathan Dos Santos, who I think is marketable and teams would take. But I don't know if the Galaxy would be willing to give it up. But
I think they should get rid of all 4 Saints and just have Saint Zlatan. I think they'll be better that way. What if they could? It's LA. They figure this stuff out all the time. Let him be the kicker for the Chargers.
that'd be
Maybe they would draw.
Yeah, right.
I mean, who? Which team?
The Chargers.
The Chargers, yeah.
Both. Well, the Galaxy actually have drawn pretty okay. I feel like they were.
Yeah, the Chargers are the ones with the problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
So,
yeah,
Joe mentioned in the chat that the Galaxy is AC Milan's new sponsor. AC Milan, new home of Arsene Wenger, supposedly.
Really?
That was what I saw
Hey.
on my way here, and I was like, that's the dumbest thing ever.
Or
I believe that.
I would love
Do you know what that means? It's Italy. It's definitely happening.
Yeah, that press conference tomorrow will be interesting because they're going to have to do some fancy footwork if they're giving him a fat new deal. Because
They could just Bobby Bonilla him. Just
Yeah,
start
back
paying
And
now.
MLS is never going to let that happen, although they might do it for the Galaxy.
Are you? Yeah, I was like, have you seen MLS? Because I have. And the fact that they were like, we think we might get rid of one of the designated player slots. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that went over
Yeah.
like a lead balloon.
Yeah.
If you'd stop putting teams in like 4th-tier TV markets, we wouldn't really have to have this discussion, but okay. Anyway, let's get into the other LA, who cannot be pleased at being bounced.
Well,
They
and
deserve it purely for throwing shit on the field and their homophobic chants.
that was bad.
Yeah.
But
Their fans just like lost.
Well, the thing
It was
is,
bad.
It was really bad.
they were very good all season. I think it started out had a problem.
Yeah.
They fixed it like 2 or 3 games in, and we're fine and great. And I thought they were actually a fantastic fan base
I was
for
told
the
it
entire
hadn't
year.
happened since the match that we were there.
That was their first match.
Yeah.
So
Which was, what, April?
In
Yeah.
April. So yeah, they were great. I thoroughly enjoyed watching them. And thought they were very good. And then obviously, this popped up obviously once they started losing, and they just kind of reverted back, devolved essentially into their more feral state. But I don't know what triggered it beyond just them being pissed and losing, and maybe having some people who weren't. Yeah.
Do you think
I don't think they
that,
have any overlap of
Yeah.
fan base
At all.
I
do
think
you think
Unfortunately.
that there's the joke about, that Steph taught Tyler Miller everything he knows? Do you think maybe Steph just held some things back? Like, that was a good joke I saw. I was like, that's actually really funny, because people were trying to chant that in April this year, and I was like, I wouldn't say that because Stephen Fry's pretty good. And then people tried to make that joke this week, and I'm like, stop trying to make it about you. Just leave it alone.
it happens all the time.
I don't know, man. RSL's like, we're just going to put the ball on goal, and it's just going to go in.
It's just twice or
Yeah,
or 3 times.
Well, no, the funny thing was that they scored 3 goals on 2 shots on goal because their 1 goal wasn't on target and it got redirected in.
It was not great.
I mean, it's that second goal,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah,
Krylock
goal.
is just...
Yeah.
And then he had the great header
Yeah.
down against KC. Postseason MVP. I'm here for the deep RSL.
Dude, RSL has got to be feeling pretty
They're
good
living the
right
charmed
now.
life, you have to say. At this
Right?
point.
So, I don't know. Red Bulls...
I think
Didn't-
they're done.
I
mean, it's
give the
only
crew the
a
advantage at this
goal.
point. Yes, that is the one thing.
It's a goal.
Yeah, they did not
And-
get more. Not that they would necessarily deserve more from the game. I mean, they were.
But if you're
The crew were
Columbus,
good.
you got to be feeling it right now.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
you earned it to get here
Yeah.
in the last week.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, 3 games, 3
are
wins.
are you scared
Against
if you
probably
have
the 2 hottest
if you
teams
have
in the entire bracket.
supposedly
Mhm.
if you are the team that has been and the overlap between their deck, the Nordecke, and AO is 80% the same people. if you have theoretically been playing in a fortress for the last 10+ years, you can handle Red Bull Arena.
Which probably will not be full, because it never is. And so
The crew should be used to that.
Which
too.
is so dumb, because it's a great park.
It's a gorgeous stadium. I haven't been there, but it's obviously
If
fantastic.
you wanted a $12 Yingling, I know where to take you.
It's a hard pass.
Yeah. So
Hey, don't hate on Yingling here.
I'm in with that.
I know.
Good
I'm
job.
a native
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I got it right.
I'm
for
not
the,
that,
I got
but
a ride
we
for the
have,
Yingling here.
Yeah. So let's talk about the other series and then come back and make some predictions for Thursday. Columbus, as we're talking about, probably feeling pretty good here
Yeah.
going in.
They get one goal, I think they go through. So it's just a matter of
Do we
scoring
think they make it out?
I do.
I think I'm leaning. I'm saying they're going to go through. If obviously, if they can get a goal, they'll go through. If not, they won't, because I think New York will score at least one.
And
And we
then
get an extra time.
Yeah.
And Stefan and penalties.
Yeah.
Even in that scenario,
Yeah,
there's a way to see him through.
I'm not betting against Stefan in penalties
No.
ever again.
so heading down the Eastern Seaboard a bit to Atlanta.
Yeah, that
Packed
one's
house,
over.
right?
That one is over.
Like that's got to be done.
I would think, but I mean, it's not like Atlanta is great at playing defensively. So yeah, they scored away, but like it could turn into a shootout. In which case they like lose 4-3 and get knocked out. But I think, I think they're safe.
Yeah,
I'm just saying they're not like 100% safe.
Yeah. that makes sense.
Okay. So feeling good about Atlanta, knocking out one of the possibilities for a Sounders home MLS game in NYCFC, and then over to the
Midwest.
West, SKC RSL.
Oh gosh, I mean, it's just
SKC's got an away goal.
I think that goal changes it
yeah,
drastically.
that killed RSL.
Because I can't see them scoring probably.
I mean,
even
before
once
we get
on
into
the
a
road,
prediction,
let alone twice.
Is
I mean-
Johnny Miller more of an asshole than Dom Dwyer?
Johnny Miller,
Johnny Miller.
Johnny,
I'm sorry, Miller is.
Russell.
Yeah, Johnny Russell.
Johnny Russell. Sorry, Johnny Miller is
He's-
not that guy. Johnny Russell.
No,
I think he is.
Nah, Dom was pretty obnoxious.
Yeah, Dom is definitely near the top of the charts. For me.
Russell. Jesus. Anyway, so you think SKC gets
Kansas-
through?
Yeah, Kansas.
Yeah. Is that just because they're at?
And
Yeah.
Sporting Park and their defense is more sturdy than LAFC's.
For me, it's just because they have the away goal. Because I just can't see Salt Lake scoring twice.
So
especially.
you don't think that there's just some Rimondo momentum? He's able
He
to
was
keep them in the game.
responsible for their goal.
Yeah,
And,
I know. That's the thing. It's like even at
responsible for
nothing,
their away
nothing,
goal.
you get
Different
knocked
discussion.
out.
Yeah.
So I don't see the scenario where it all lines up for them now.
But what about, there's some amazing hair happening on the RSL squad right
Yeah.
now.
Maybe Krylock just scores from 40 yards out. They
He
win
could throw it.
1-0.
Yeah, he could throw it a banger. That's absolutely true.
That sounds, no, that's probably not going to happen. But we really, really want them.
I know I do.
RSL Columbus shit show. What's the ratings on that?
Oh, and it would be in Columbus too, which is just gold.
We should
Gotta
actually
put a
fly
reading
someone
for it
out
to
there
the Sounders
to
goal
set
against
the scoreboard on fire again.
In
I'm
tribute.
sure Precor would be on that with the.
He would actually do it for you.
For the insurance
Yeah.
money.
Right?
Oh, God.
for Netflix.
So on from Johnny Russell, back up here to Seattle. Thursday night football. Competing against actual Thursday night football. Yay. Injuries aside, let's just consider, what did we say, 5%? Less than 5%?
That either one of them play. Yeah.
Either or both. Okay. What do we have as far as predictions go?
Boy, it's going to be a tough one. I still think they've got more than enough to win the game. And so I'm going to predict that the Sounders do win and go through. As far as the score, oof. That is a tough one. I'm going to say it's going to be a tight one. So I'm going to go with a 1-0. Hold on to your butts score.
Yeah.
That's exhausting.
Yeah.
It is.
Like 1-0, like third minute.
And then holding on for the rest of the game.
That's exhausting.
Yeah, I also think it's going to be 1-0. I'd like to see it at 2-1 and just let's get wild. Go into extra
2-1.
time.
Wow.
3-3 on aggregate. Let's just have a time on Thursday night. That's what I would like to see happen. But I
Matt
think
Pence
it's going to be
is super
1-0.
fired right now. Like, I don't know if that's better or worse than the 1-0 exhausting, and then like 9 minutes of stoppage.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess it depends on the order of the scoring.
I'm uncomfortable with both of your predictions. I have to tell you, I think it's going to be 2-1, and it's going to go. Yeah, I think it's going to get exhausting. Tim says, Team Chaos not wanted at this match. So JJ says, finish these statements. Seattle will win the series if, and Portland will win the series if. So, like, pick a factor.
Yeah. Well, I think I already even said this about Blanco. Portland wins if Blanco has himself a night. Because he was very
So no
good.
matter what, Blanco has the game he wants to have. Portland wins.
Just because, yeah, you get an away goal or two, and that could pretty much be it. And I think that that's the way that they would have to do it. Seattle wins if, they just sort of take care of business, right? I think if they play their game, they're the better team. Even with the injuries, I think they're the better, more complete team. So as long as they don't make any high-profile mistakes or anything, I think they have enough to go through.
Okay.
That sounds about right to me. I would say the Sounders will win if Rui Diaz and Ladero can combine and create opportunities. And then Portland will win if the Sounders can't control Valeri. So I think they'll be he'll be the one, I think, that pulls the strings. And if he has a dynamic game, which he really didn't have on Sunday.
No.
So if he does that on the road, then the Sounders will be in trouble.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just think that Karma's going to punish Portland for not trying to
Yeah.
win.
Yeah.
So the soccer gods will smite them
I think
for not going for it when they could have.
on the Sounders win, I'm with you. It's Sounders play the game they want to play. They're fine, irrelevant of injuries. I think if they do what they want, they get the lineup they want. Nothing else.
Because they have quality
happens.
backups at the positions that
Yeah,
they're not going to have.
I think they can figure it
They're
out.
starters.
They can flip the lineups around, the formations around. I would agree. I feel pretty good about this match at home, though. I'm going to say Portland. Portland will win if the Sounders forget to go to the stadium.
Wow, that's pretty bold, given
Yeah.
that they're behind
Yeah.
on aggregate.
I'm okay. I'm feeling good right now. There's no Team Chaos in Seattle this week. So, other than that, any other specific predictions or things that you want to see, Matt, for the rest of the playoffs? Either potential matchups for Sounders or just other things you'd like to see in MLS Cup playoffs.
I'll let you go first. I want to maul here.
Yes.
What the hell, Matt?
Interesting things to look forward to going forward. Obviously, the Crew would be one, just because of the optics of that, and because that will continue to likely impact the U.S. national team coaching decision, which clearly should have
Very
been made
funny.
by now, and has not for reasons which we can all guess. And so the Crew is probably the most interesting story out of the East, along with Atlanta, I think, just to see if they can close it out and exercise some of the demons from last year, even though they were in a knockout round last year and didn't have to do that this year. Still, advancing around, I think, is important for them. And then out of the West, we've talked about the Sounders, obviously. RSL, the one thing I would say, it's unlikely, obviously, that they're going to go and get a result in Kansas City that sees them through. But they were able to do it against LAFC, who admittedly had a lesser defense. So if RSL if RSL can replicate the LAFC where they have a couple of prime strikes and just withstand a bunch of stuff from SKC going forward, because SKC is not as dynamic as LAFC is on offense. So if RSL gets a goal, then it could be, all bets could be off.
For sure, and I agree. On the East, I kind of hope it kind of plays out the way it is already. I think a Columbus-Atlanta conference final would be really intriguing, because then whoever goes through an MLS Cup in Atlanta in front of 70,000 people would be a lot of fun. I mean, the spectacle would be great. Like, I think that would be cool to see.
Delta would lose its shit.
Yeah. Columbus would be intriguing for many, many reasons.
Yeah.
And then out west, I mean, what I really wanted was a Sounders-Timbers game regardless. So that's already happened. So my wish for the West is already ticked off. And then either one, I think, would be a fine series. Salt Lake's an underratedly great away trip, in my opinion. Kansas City would be fine. Beautiful stadium for leg 2. Be a good atmosphere, too. So really the rest of the way, I think it'll be fun. I
think a lot of people would prefer to go to RSL, one, because it's a fun road trip.
Yeah, you can drive.
I think Kansas City presents an interesting conference final.
Yeah, it would be the most well played. Certainly.
Sounders, 99th minute, Roman Torres chip.
Yeah.
Something just awful. Tim Melia just retires on the spot, just walks away. I would say RSL would be the preference, just from you want your team to be able to take on the opponent that's less scary.
Yeah.
But I don't know if RSL is less scary if they take out SKC.
And they beat the Sounders twice. Granted, it was early in the season when the Sounders were not nearly at their best, and they rarely play well in Salt Lake. The last time, I guess they won once there in the playoffs, and then had a 3-0 loss that they couldn't recover from in another playoff. But it's just a tough place to play. So.
Yeah.
And this is very much nitpicking, but the Sounders really haven't had to take a good team's best shot over a 2-leg series during this whole run. Because the last couple of years, the matchups have just kind of broken. Diaz was hurt. You had Houston come through last year. They haven't had to play that really good Western Conference opponent, and so I think that'd be a fun series.
Yeah,
they're the two best teams. I think it would be a really fun game.
So, of the teams remaining in the East, were Sounders, jinx, to make MLS Cup final, who would you want to play the least?
I mean, it's got to be, of everyone left? That's a good question.
I'd probably say the Red Bulls.
Yeah, the Red Bulls. Because they would have to go away. Columbus versus Atlanta would be interesting just because you get Columbus here. So you got to pick that. But I think they match up with Atlanta better than they match up with Columbus.
I agree. It's been a long time since they played well against Columbus.
So what does MLS want right now?
Seattle versus
Atlanta, right?
Yes, yeah. Seattle versus Atlanta. Probably Atlanta.
Yeah.
There was probably a moment where they were like, NYCFC, LAFC. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Wrong.
We can have the two most currently problematic fan bases going.
Come on. We're awkwardly opposite, racist, homophobic, whatever. Yeah, we're just going to make it awkward.
Yeah.
They were like, neutral site. We're calling it Columbus. Columbus just happens to get an MLS Cup. So any last minute predictions? We've run a little bit hot. Thank you, Matt, for coming out and chatting with us yet again tonight. By the way, has your home office been raided by the FBI since we last saw you?
No.
What was that other question we were asking recently? It was equally awkward.
Okay, yeah.
Have you accidentally murdered anyone when they showed up at your office?
No.
It was an accident.
Yeah.
We accidentally dropped that person in acid.
Whoops.
And then put a body double out on the street wearing their clothing. I mean, come on. From downtown Renton. I'm just gonna walk away from that. So, any last words?
No, we'll be back here next Monday to chat it up.
Yeah, enjoy
Let's
the
have
scene.
a positive next week.
I mean, it's gonna be fun regardless, right? I mean, I know it's Thursday and it's not ideal, and like I
I'm
don't know
excited to talk about that USA England friendly.
There you go.
Yeah, we can talk about the national team call-ups as well.
So
That'll be fun.
when we have a show next week, it is full-on Thanksgiving side dish recipes, and that is it.
Oh,
So
good.
bring your A game, and if there's cabbage in it, I don't want to talk about it. Thanks for joining us, everybody, tonight here at Berliner. Thanks, Matt Pence. Thanks, Mickey Turner.
Anytime.
Thanks for those of you at home or wherever you are. Hopefully not driving in your car with your phone. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.